Okay, good day. Welcome to another tutorial. Today we'll be looking at how to get your floorboards for your main project in your 3D modeling course. Okay. Now, as you know, there's a lot of resources that is available on the design computing website. This website was created by your lecturers to assist you in your courses, computing courses of study. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is to log on to the 3DM class site. That's the 3D modeling class site. You should have the password already. And when you log on, you will see, scroll down, and you will actually see some 3D modeling guidelines, right? So this video that we have is going to be a part of this guidelines, right? Now, the one I want to point you to is creating louvers and wood sidings. And the same method that we use to get the flooring, you can also use to get the wood siding, right? So and we're going to be doing it with AutoCAD. Okay, so the first thing is to get your profiles, and there's actually a presentation here that gives you an idea of the sizes and profiles, and they give you profiles for the wood sidings for your buildings to give you a rough idea of what are the measurements. All right, so this is a good place that you can go to get a particular profile for your siding. Now, for your floorboards, it's relatively simple. You won't need to use these profiles because the floorboards are relatively, they don't connect as complicated as the sidings. I just wanted to show you that you could use the same method to get your sidings. So what we're going to do is open up a copy of AutoCAD. I'm using AutoCAD 2016, and the first thing you want to do is go to the little A, you go to new, and you want to know what units you are using, right? So I'm going to be using metric. So you can pick any one of these, preferably the AEC model metric, CTB or STB, doesn't matter. So I'm going to choose the CTB, and that will ensure that you're working in the correct units. Okay, so to get your floorboards, we're going to be creating the profile for the floorboards, extruding it, and using the array command to get multiple copies. Okay, so first thing we want to do is create the profile of the floorboards, which is basically the cross section. So I'm going to use the polygon tool, and we're going to assume that the floorboards are going to be 1 inch tall and 4 inches long. Okay, now let's convert that to metric. That will roughly be 25 millimeters tall and 100 millimeters long. So we're going to use the polyline, and we're going to draw the first line. I'm going to turn on my ortho so I get these lines straight. So the first line is going to be 25, and right before I type this, I want to make sure that I'm actually using millimeters. So to do that, I'm going to just check my units real quick by typing units, press enter, and you can see here that I am using millimeters. Okay, great, so that is confirmed. So go back to my polyline tool, and I'm doing 25 millimeters that way, and I'm doing 100 millimeters that way. Okay, good. So I'm just going to close this up and close that up and press escape, and that's the cross section of my floorboard. Now what I'm going to do now is to extrude it. So I'm going to turn to a perspective view. I can either use my view cube here to do that. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag my view cube, and that will give me a 3D view. So this floorboard here, I'm going to assume that the width of my building is 6 meters. So I'm going to go to my extrude command. I'm going to type that EXTRUDE, extrude. I'm going to select the objects I want to extrude, press enter, and then I'm going to select the height. I'm just going to type that in at 6,000 millimeters, press enter. Alright, so I've gotten my first floorboard. Now if I orbit here, you notice that this floorboard is pretty much sticking up in the air vertically on the Z axis. Now ideally I would want this floorboard to be rotated so that it is now sitting this way. Then I would copy them again and keep copying them, and that's the rough idea what we want to do. We want to rotate it first and then copy them using the array command. Okay, now in order to rotate it, you will need to manipulate your UCS. We're going to be using a shortcut method to do that, and basically the shortest way to do that is to simply hover over your UCS. Notice when I hover over it, changes to yellow. So I'm hovering over my UCS, and what I want is in order to rotate this way, that way, I will need this axis to be Y and this axis to be X. That is what I will need so that I can easily rotate between X and Y, which is what CAD allows me to do easily, rotate between X and Y. Not X and Z or Y and Z, X and Y. Okay, so currently you can see my UCS is showing me Z and Y. So all I need to do is to grab one of these points here. I'm going to just grab one of them by clicking on it once and just rotating it till I get what I need. Okay, so there we go. So now you can see that my vertical axis here is X and this is Y. It's turned the other way, but it doesn't really matter. I can easily rotate between X and Y. AutoCAD will not allow you to easily rotate between, for example, Y and Z. Alright, so that is a no-no. Always between X and Y. Alright, so now that I've rotated my UCS, what I need to do is click on the first plank. I'm going to go to my rotate tool, which is RO, enter, choose my base point here, and I have ortho on, so it will snap 90 degrees. So I want to rotate it along that way, and that takes care of that. Now what I want to do now is use my array tool, and to do that, so the first thing I want to do is put back my UCS so that so I have this as let's see here, so I have this as now my X and Y. Alright, as you can see, a lot of these things have to do with orienting your UCS the correct way. So I'm going to simply do that again by clicking the UCS icon and moving it back. So now my Z is this way and my X and Y is that way, and of course, you know, we want to array this that way or that way depending on how you want it. Alright, so we are gonna go to our modify panel, and we're gonna go here. I'm gonna click this little modify arrow here. You gotta just search for that. Now once it's expanded, we are gonna go for our polar array, not polar array, we're going to go for our rectangular array tool, which is right there. You want to click this little down arrow, change it to rectangular array. Once you click the icon, remember how AutoCAD works. It will be asking you instructions in your command bar. Alright, so it's going to say select the objects you want to array. You click that, press enter, and then basically once you do that, you press enter again, and it will array it by a default amount. Now notice that once you click on the arrayed object, your toolbar, the array tab now comes available. Alright, let me deselect that, and you can see if I press escape, the array toolbar isn't there. So when you click on this object, it's actually an array object. It's not really a 3D model object, it's actually an array object, which is quite different. Alright, now you can simply type in these values. These are pretty much common sense, or you can, I can grab this and make it the length that I want. If you notice that it is actually spaced. So let's start looking at these options. So if I zoom out here, notice that I actually have 3 rows and 21 columns, right? And those correspond with 3 rows and 21 columns. Alright, with the columns representing the floorboards and the rows here. Now of course I don't want 3 rows, so I need to highlight this and change that to 1. Press enter. So now I have 1 row, and the amount of columns, I can actually just click the little arrow here and modify them. So if I click this arrow, I can increase the amount of rows. Now it's 33, right? Now if I zoom in here, this arrow here will allow me to edit the distance between the rows. Alright, so I can actually just grab that, and this is making it more, and that is making it less. Now notice when I change the distance that this value here changes, which is the distance between. So if in your case you want your floorboards to have a little space in between, then you can just edit that distance, or you can use the little arrow to eyeball it. Alright, so in most cases you may want it to not have anything, any distance, so you put 0. Correction, you would not put 0, you would put the distance between the center point of one and the center point of the other, right? That is actually the distance that you're typing in here, not the end point, not that, but the center point. So hence the distance between would actually be 100. Alright, and if I look around here, I hold shift and middle mouse button and I can rotate easily, and you can see I have my floorboards there. Now if your building has a particular shape, for example maybe your building is shaped like that, then you would have to use the subtract tool and other tools to subtract this section here for the array. Alright, so that is the simple explanation of creating your floorboards for your final project.